Hello, this is Evan Brand, Certified Functional Medicine Practitioner. I'm talking with you today about the stages of sugar handling. So, stable blood sugar is an essential for overall health and longevity. If you don't have stable blood sugar, it's going to be tough for you to be healthy. When that blood sugar crashes, that creates an emergency response. When that blood sugar spikes, that also creates an emergency response. Your pancreas is going to have to secrete insulin to deal with the high blood sugar. When that blood sugar drops, the adrenals and the liver are going to have to kick in and produce various hormones such as glucagon to drive that blood sugar back up so you don't pass out and go into a coma. This happens behind the scenes usually without too many symptoms associated with it. However, when you're in various stages of sugar handling problems, you're going to experience more symptoms. So I'm going to talk you through some of that right now. So if we look here on this chart, we're going to be talking about morning energy levels. We're going to be talking about appetite throughout the day, sleep, and energy after meals. This appetite here, I'm talking about morning appetite. So let's start, this is a lot of text, so I'm going to talk you through this, okay? So the natural response, this is how you should feel in terms of your morning energy. You should have it. You should be hungry when you wake up in the morning. You should have hunger, but not cravings throughout the day. You should sleep soundly, and there should be no change in your energy levels after meals. Now, typically what I find, and most people I work with, is they're somewhere in between the next stages, which is the hypoglycemia stage or the insulin resistance stage. How do you know if you're hypoglycemic? How do you know if you're insulin resistant? If you look in the mirror and you see some excess weight, it's likely that you're in the insulin resistance phase, which is a deeper stage of blood sugar instability. Now, you could be skinny and still have insulin issues, but typically you're going to be more in the hypoglycemia stage if you don't have excess weight, but you still have some of these symptoms. So let's go through this together. So if you have hypoglycemia, which is this low, unstable blood sugar, what's going to happen is you're going to have a difficult time waking up in the morning. So it's going to take you a little while to get out of bed. Maybe you're dragging for a little bit. You may say, I wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock, but I don't really get my day going until 10 o'clock. That's when the brain kicks in. That's a hypoglycemia symptom. So if we go down here, we're going to have typically no appetite, but we may want caffeine or sugar. So those of you doing something like a bulletproof coffee, a buttered coffee or a coconut oil and MCT coffee, yes, that's a good fat source, but if you're having that craving and you don't want to eat real food, that's a symptom that you need to address that blood sugar issue. So appetite throughout the day, you're going to lose function between meals. So you go 2 to 3 hours, you start getting hangry, you start getting irritable, maybe you get shaky in between meals. That's a hypoglycemia symptom. You can't stay asleep at night, so you may pass out from exhaustion, but you wake up in the middle of the night, possibly with your heart racing, which would indicate an even bigger blood sugar issue because the blood sugar is getting so low that you're having to knock on those adrenal glands, which are then going to secrete cortisol and adrenaline, which can cause you to wake up with heart palpitations or just a racing heart, racing mind. So lastly, you're going to gain energy and relief. Man, this marker's dying, isn't it? You're going to gain energy and relief after meals. So if you're someone who is feeling low, you're feeling fatigued, you eat and then you're like, oh, I feel better. That's hypoglycemia. So let's go to this last stage here. This is the insulin resistance phase. You're going to wake up with morning energy. No, you're not. You're not going to feel rested at all. Appetite, you're going to have sugar cravings, and you're likely going to want or eat a starchy breakfast. So if you think of all those people going to Starbucks, they're getting their caffeine, they're getting their sugar, maybe their pastry. Well, that's insulin resistance in the flesh. We're going to look at an energy drop and an ongoing cravings throughout the day. So the energy is just low overall. It's 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. There's just cravings throughout the entire day. You're constantly trying to feed the beast. You can't fall asleep. So insulin resistance, you're going to have a whole separate problem. You may have trouble staying asleep as well, but typically you're going to have trouble falling asleep in this phase, which is a later phase. Lastly, fatigue after meals. So here in the hypoglycemia, you may get energy and relief. You feel better. If you have a natural response, you're not going to have a change in your energy. And if you're insulin resistant, being deeper in the hole with blood sugar issues, you're going to be tired after meals. So that's when the person eats the meal and they say, man, I need to take a nap. That's insulin resistance. So here's the 3 stages, and all of these issues tie into adrenal fatigue. So like I mentioned in the beginning, if you have blood sugar issues, you have to get those addressed. You cannot get better. How do you do that? Well, one is you don't want to skip meals. Two is you want to eat adequate sources of fat and protein with each meal, because fat and protein are the logs that help your glycemic fire burn a little bit longer. If you throw sugar on the fire, it's just going to burn real hot and then it's going to burn out and you're going to have cravings in an hour or two. So not skipping meals, eating your good fats and proteins. And number 3 is looking at your adrenals and getting those addressed if you do have what's called adrenal fatigue, because these blood sugars can tie into that. If you're constantly having to rely on the adrenal glands to create an emergency source of fuel for you so you don't pass out, that's going to wear those adrenal glands out over time. Now, typically they don't get wore out. That's just the term that a lot of practitioners use. But in reality, what happens is the brain begins to downregulate this whole HPA axis, and therefore the brain is telling the adrenals, look, we're not going to give you the ability to make any more hormones, because every time we do, you take them and you run with them. So the adrenal glands were never designed for constant use like we have in today's world with incessant stressors like our smartphones, we're always on those, or like blood sugar issues. So with all of the processed foods we have, it's very common for people to have blood sugar issues. Now, I work with people across the world that have a paleo diet in place, a whole foods diet, an autoimmune paleo diet, and they're still struggling with blood sugar issues. So just because you have a good diet doesn't mean that you can't deal with this. Now, it's hard to say chicken or egg, what came first, the blood sugar issues or the adrenal stress, but these are both tied in very closely together, and you have to resolve each of these issues if you want to have optimal health. So in the meantime, you can schedule a 15-minute phone consultation with myself. I'd love to talk with you if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, see if we're a good fit for each other and help you out. So this is Evan Brand signing out. To schedule that consult, you can just click on screen or you can click below and I'll talk with you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.